Welcome back to another episode of Positively Uncensored, your favorite reality TV and interview podcast. Today I'm going to be diving into the secret life of Mormon wives. Not their actual life, no. Season 2 that just debuted on Hulu. And to help me dive through the first episode, I am joined by my good friend, Nikki. Thank you so much for coming on. Is this the first time you've been on my podcast? Because we've been friends independently, so I can't even really remember.
No, I was on once before, but I don't remember what we actually talked about. It was another show. I don't think it was Secret Lives, but it was definitely another show.
Okay, I think so too. So you are a returning guest. So if her voice sounds familiar, that's because she has come on before. Is there anywhere where you'd like people to follow you before we start getting into things?
You can follow me on Instagram at the Nikki Vicky, and then TikTok at just Nikki Vicky.
And tell people what you cover really quickly so they know what to expect.
I used to cover just beauty, but now I'm mostly just in my stories and reposting stuff. So not really
But
much of
listen, she's on
anything.
top of things. So if you're like if you want to be on in the know on something, you can still follow Nikki and take away something because she's frequently sharing things that I end up sharing to my page. Like half of them I should just credit. It should just be in my bio at this point, credit the Nikki Vicky. Um, but let's get into episode 1. We love this show. We've been talking about it together. Season 2 was a lot of a different feel than season 1. And I wanted to start out just by briefly talking about that and getting your take. Now, I've seen this sentiment echoed online, so I know I'm not the only one who felt this way, but it just feels like season 2 is very almost not, I don't know if dark's the right word, just because
It
we are
is.
watching things like The Valley, but yeah, it feels very dark. We're using an alleged sexual assault for reality TV fodder that makes two separate shows. And not only that, it's being dragged out into what seems like another season, which we'll get into by the time we get to episode 10. But that's dark. It's weird to feel the girls genuinely have lost whatever friendship they had season 1, like so quickly. It can take seasoned reality shows 10 seasons to accomplish the disconnect that this group of women has had in one season. And then just the constant talk of money, the way that they dealt with mental health. Do you feel like this season was dark?
Yes, I think the crux of it is actually that all those other reality shows that we watched, like Vanderpump Rules, Summer House, all of those, the foundations were actual friendships. This Mom Talk is all based off, well, like not the OG Mom Talk, because I feel like that was more friendship based, but like this iteration of Mom Talk is all about the business. Like they say they're up for like all about uplifting women, but really it's about them making money. So when obviously when something is built, the foundation is built off money, and money starts being impacted by other things, of course everything's going to crumble and fall by the wayside.
And this is such a great representation. There's really not a show that specifically just follows a group of influencers around and shows their friendships, but this is a great example of what we hear about the transactional friendships that happen in the content creation community. How things so quickly can become blurred, or even people, I swear, I don't want to reference Emma Chambers, but like I swear Emma Chambers said one time that like she lost a lot of her friendships as soon as she started, even as a YouTube creator. So I feel like this is like really exemplifying that. And we're seeing how fast that happens. Like you just said, once there's a significant amount of money involved.
Exactly. It almost feels like, not to like age myself, but I grew up on like the MTV like reality shows. I don't know if there was a show called Eighth and Ocean where it was all about models in LA trying to make it. It almost feels like these like it's it's based in LA. That's where Eighth and Ocean was based, but definitely feels like Utah is mimicking that, where it's like everything's cutthroat. But then people are confronted and they start crying, or they feel like they go back to the verbiage of we're supposed to be about uplifting women and all this, that, and the other, and it's like, but do you do that? When do you do that?
The answer is there's very little to no uplifting women all season, all season. The
Deliberately.
group focuses so little on that. So let's get right into episode one. Thank you for sharing your like our overall sentiments of the season. Now, trigger warning before we get into things, because we said this season is dark, there's various like underlying themes, and I'm not quite sure in what episodes they come up. So just be aware that there are themes of self-harm, thoughts of suicidal ideation. There's even relationships that seem to mimic what would be like abusive relationships. So, we're going to be talking about all of these things as we go through the episodes,
Yeah.
not just focusing on that. It's not going to be very heavy, but I just wanted everybody to be aware as they're listening.
Yes.
So, starting off in episode one, Whitney is on the outs with the group because she's not been in contact with any of them since last season. And just a reminder, last season, Whitney was accused, rightfully so, by her cast members and friends of leaning very heavily into that villain role. And she also really coveted Taylor's spot as HBIC, and she wanted to own that.
Yes. Like I feel like the problem with Whitney is that she doesn't know that she is the villain, and she doesn't want to be the villain. Especially from last year to this year. It still feels like she thinks that she's in the right, and because of someone who we'll get into later, she like it's feeding that. It's almost like that folie à deux where people the mutual like psychosis of like, oh, feeding, I mean, like feeding each other and being like, yeah, this is right. Like the what's that phrase? Like the three bitches in the room saying exactly. Like this is what that's like. That's this
It's
whole season.
exactly. That's exactly what it's like, because they go in an echo chamber. Like when someone's on the outs of the group, you see that they always find people who are also on the outs, despite how they felt about each other online in prior seasons. That's what we see happen with Demi and Whitney later on in the season.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
starts
you're
with Whitney and Miranda. Miranda, they're both on the outs, and then all of a sudden they start
so
connecting.
true. That's so true. Whitney's the first person to really be open to Miranda because she's like, I need an entrance into the group. And
Yeah,
if
I
you're
already have
sort
no
of being
social capital,
accepted,
and people they're kind of trying to let you in, so I might as well get in with you.
because I'm going to assume that a lot of people who are watching the show are aware of Whitney and why she was criticized. I'm almost positive they made it a part of season one. But it's not just how Whitney acted on the show. Her online presence in the videos that she made, specifically with her newborn during COVID, just lack. I don't intention. I don't even know what word to use. They're just very
It's
tone
yeah,
deaf.
yeah. The intention is to get views. The problem is we all have social mores and social things that we don't do, like that we know, like we're not going to do this to our most vulnerable. As a society, we've said this and we've tried to uphold those like ideals, but when money gets involved and your family is part of your monetization, then we see this with the Sherry Frankie case. When your
Mm-hmm.
family becomes consumable and the entire crux of your actual um job, then nothing's off limits and everything's fair game.
The downfall of families who grow an online presence. We're going to have to do a separate episode on that at some point, because I have a unique obsession with the Costco guys and their social media presence and
Yes.
just how inappropriate I find that. And I've been dying to find someone who could just kind of nerd out with me. But I think that that could be you. I think that we could do that.
Yeah.
But you give me a good point. Miranda is a new cast member this season. And if we were going to describe it in terms of the Housewives for all of you Bravo fans, I would describe I'm sorry, Miranda as a friend of. That's how
Yeah.
I would describe her this season.
100%. And it's her and Whitney being friends of. Whitney is that former housewife that wants to get, like, that was like not let go, but that was said like, we're gonna demote you, but you can come back up if you like really show out this next season. Like she's Cynthia Bailey, not Cynthia Bailey. Let's not go that far. But
Whoa.
she is Kim. What's her name?
Zolciak?
Yeah, she's trying to get back, trying to say
Hmm.
like my family's perfect, this, that, and the other. And then you have this other girl like coming back and saying like, well, I can be here. I was here. You didn't know I was here. I was always a friend of in the background.
100%. That's a perfect description. Now, obviously, thank you
Oh
for
wait,
retracting the Cynthia Bailey.
is it Portia versus Shamia? Is that because
We're not going there.
Shamia
We're
was always a friend of. We were always like, why is she?
I've always rooted for Shamia. We're not even going there, but Miranda, friend of, okay, there's so much lore with Miranda, and you
Yes.
guys can go to other podcasts to really dive into that. There's tons of fun videos on YouTube, TikTok that like dive into all of the lore because it's long. But the short version of that is, from my understanding, she was part of the initial swinger group within Mom Talk, and she's the one whose husband, who we know to be Chase later on, developed feelings for Taylor. Is that a good summation of who Miranda is?
Yes. And also, just for people who only watched season one so far, sorry, my voice cracks. Season one so far,
Hmm.
um, in the initial like prologue of what was like the not really the trailer, but like the beginning of season one, episode one, they said this is the OG mom talk. That was not the OG mom talk. The OG mom talk was Taylor, who brought in Miranda and Camille. I forgot how you say your name. But so that was the OG three, basically. So it's really just going back to the roots and kind of like actually bringing what mom talk was.
I wish you could see like how big the smile is on my face, because this is why I love to podcast with you. The things that you say are just so funny. That's so true. The shade. It was not the initial mom talk. Okay.
Yeah.
If we were going to do the initial mom talk, it would have been Taylor, Miranda, Camille, whoever. Okay. And then all of the husbands and someone whom we don't know yet, like an unnamed guy who's the one that Taylor had some sort of relationship with, like
Yes.
outside of what was going on at the swinging parties. And
Yes.
we still don't know the identity of that couple, correct?
We do on TikTok because there was
Okay.
some sleuthing. I'll send you that stuff. It was like last year it all came out. But then it
Okay.
kind of fizzled, which is also why I feel like this thing should have not taken so long. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say something.
So
What was I gonna say? You go.
quickly, so in the episode details, what we're going to do then, once Nikki sends this to me, I'm going to put in the episode description the link to the lore behind that for people who have also missed it. Since I missed it, I'm sure other people have missed it. That way, all of us can sort of like walk away with the same information. Did you think of what you were going to say?
No, it'll come to me later, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'll be like,
Okay.
oh,
Period. And when it
yeah,
does, we'll be hitting on it. Okay, so
yeah.
Miranda claims, and apologies for how my notes are written, but I'm not sure where she claims this, whether it was in a confession or when she first walks in. But my first note is Miranda claims that the furthest that she was involved in the swinging was kissing, but there was no sex between anyone, meaning between the couples with each other, which is
Yes.
not, I guess, what Taylor shared. However, if we go back and look, did Taylor ever explicitly say that the couple swapped with each other, or did people just assume that?
She didn't say they swapped with the guys. They said that the girls would kiss. Um, and mind you, Miranda's saying all this. She did say this in front of the girls, which is why the girls are like, "What the hell is actually like going on?
What the
What's
heliante?
yeah?"
What the heli?
All we know is what Taylor told to us or said to us, because mind you, Miranda hasn't talked to any of them for like the last 3 to 5 years now, or 3 to 4 years now. Um, so they're all like, "Well, you didn't reach out to us either to let us know your stuff." But she's all saying this before Taylor gets there.
Okay, you're right. So she's trying to kind of get in there, give her side of the story, and oh my God, that's so true. And then we hear from Taylor, and this must be in Taylor's confession because I don't think she sits down and starts at this, but we hear that Taylor reports that Dakota finally admitted that there was more to the story about him kissing a girl last year, and that it was in fact more than just kissing. And this is all coming from, which will be important later, Macy's, what does she call them? Sunday Scaries?
Sinner Sunday.
Sinner Sunday, Macy's Sinner Sunday, her confessions that she does on Instagram, where people send anonymous confessions to her and she shares some of the most shocking. Now, granted, Macy is looking for trouble with this
Mm-hmm.
at even just doing it. Like, you are asking to receive information that you don't want to share with people, and then you're going to feel guilty holding this information, which makes me think that Macy may be a little bit messier than she's conveying on camera, but I
Yes,
don't know.
I call her Messy Macy in my head. And it's M-A, because her name is spelled differently, so it's M-A-S-S-E. Um,
Love it, love it.
so why? But in my mind, Jesse and Macy are two sides of the same coin. Add some Whitney little sauce in there too, because they want to know the drama but they don't want to be, like, they don't want it to be their drama.
It's very much hide your hands, right?
Yes.
I completely agree with that. And as we go through the episodes, you're going to see even more of what Nikki is talking about with little situations that come out. But I'm so glad that we started on that because then we can look for that throughout the episodes. But yeah, Macy is messier than she gives on, but she's quieter. That's the thing. She's quieter about it. And so people aren't as suspecting of her.
Yeah.
Now, Layla was hilarious throughout the whole season to me. I like that Layla, okay, granted, let me retract this statement because, of course, Jen's mental health is not something that I think is funny at all. But when Layla was the person who wrote Jen is fake, prior to having the context of what happened, I did think it was funny that Layla, as sweet as she is and is never saying anything, wrote that. You know what I mean? To
Hmm.
Jesse. But of course, the fallout from that, which I don't even blame 23-year-old Layla the way that I blame Demi and Jesse for how they talk about Jen. But I guess I'm getting too ahead of my britches.
Yeah. But I will say, Jen and Layla, you might not know this, they already had beef. Did you know this?
No, for what
So
reason?
during last year's press tour, um, all of them said that they were surprised how good of an edit, I think they said Demi got, and then they said Jen got. And then Layla apparently had an altercation, not physical, but verbal altercation with Jen, where she was like, I don't even really want to be around this girl. So they already had, it's not like when people say that Layla
Oh,
is just going with the crowd. No, she already had
mm.
a pre existing issue with Jen.
I did not know that. Thank you for adding that context. Okay, because me, I'm like 23 years old. I would go with the crowd too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm just to be honest, if I think about 23-year-old Leah, I'm absolutely able to be swayed over. It's also like, at 23, it does feel good to be in, quote unquote, you know what I mean, with the girls who are popular or cool or whatever. So I
Yeah.
didn't even blame Layla, but knowing that she had an interaction with Jen and then Jen's weird quote later on, I wonder if she said something offensive to Layla.
I wouldn't be surprised. And also, like, no matter what they say, for most of its like lifespan, this religion has been very anti-black,
Mm-hmm.
very, I mean, anti-women, because believing that the only way for a woman to get to heaven is through her husband is
Mm-hmm.
so detrimental to like the psyche and the spirit. And no wonder, like, yeah,
And
but
rooted in women having like your whole worth is to have children. Like
yeah.
the way that they say on the show all the time that they never felt closer to heaven, higher to God than when they were conceiving. And then mind you, someone like Layla, which I'm sure she's not alone, I'm sure she's just the only one who's talked about this. They haven't even experienced an orgasm, but
Yeah.
they're supposed to conceive for their husband and go through pregnancy and the pains of pregnancy and then the pains of labor. It shocks me that I don't want to sound, I don't know if xenophobic's the right word, but I don't want to like sound like I'm judgmental of somebody's religion. But to me, this religion is rooted in so much oppression and
Hmm.
so much that feels wrong. Even the age gap thing that it's just known. Like they joked in a recent interview that the mom talk, they joked that we get married at 16, to older guys. Like they just willy-nilly joke about these
Yeah.
statutory rape, if we're just going to call it what it
Yeah.
is.
It's all indoctrination. Like Layla, who said she came from, I think I'm pretty sure she said she came from a broken home.
She
Um,
did.
so joined the church at 16 because it was all idealized.
Right.
Um, and she
Gets
was told
married
a
at
bill of gold.
19.
Married, yeah, married at 19, had her children, and divorced by 22, 23.
Hmm.
Um,
And
and is still,
had to get married because she was
she
already
was pregnant.
pregnant.
She was pregnant,
Right.
yes.
Hmm.
So like being black there, being unwed, having a child, and then coming from like, I feel like Utah's all about like familial ties and all this other stuff. She didn't have any of that stuff. So of course it's gonna take her longer to unpack and like
White
deconstruct.
supremacy thrives there the same way. I'm watching Southern Charm right now, and like everybody has a pedigree on
Yeah.
that show. It feels very similar. Getting further in the episode so we don't stray too far, because we'll definitely be coming back to Layla. In the first episode, Zach comes and talks to Jen on camera. Apologies for my voice. There's so much pollen in the air. I just occasionally will sound scratchy. But Zach comes to talk to Jen on camera and apologizes for his behavior and takes what feels like faux accountability.
Very much so. And acts
And
like oh, sorry.
oh, you first.
And acts like he's doing this big thing by giving up med school so she can do mom talk. Mind you, she is the breadwinner. So, like, if they're separated, how is he going to pay for medical school? Because if I'm separated from my husband, I'm not sure it's going to work out.
It's giving freeloader on Zach's part.
Exactly. And I've moved to another, like, they weren't even living together. Like, I'm pretty sure she said, like, she came back to Utah. I know they weren't living together. So, like, am I going to pay for this guy to go to medical school? No.
Right, and she's paying for a separate house, presumably. Like, we don't know, but like in Arizona that they can stay while they're trying to work this out.
Yeah.
So he acts like he's so self-righteous in this conversation, because this is what me and Nikki are referring to. He talks about how he's taking a leaf from med school, okay? And Jen later on, this is why I'm giving Jen so much grace with her lies for Zach. She's either been brainwashed, which I don't believe, or she is trying very hard to the point where it has to be draining to have a perfect outward image of her and Zach's relationship. Because she says later on in the season, oh, Zach stopped doing medical school for me so that I could do mom talk and be close to the ladies, and like, look how they treated me. And it's like, Zach's not in medical school allegedly because he was asked to take a leaf. You know what I mean? Like, also him saying that he's not going to church right now. I don't know that that's in solidarity for his wife, Jen, who's unsure of where she stands with the church, or really just because the church was embarrassed. We remember after season one, even after season one trailer dropped, actually, the LDS church posted a statement, like not globally, but you know what I mean? Like, posted a public statement
Mm-hmm.
condemning the show and saying that this is not a representation of the church. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised
If he
if
was
they
just
didn't
embarrassed.
or that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I would think that he was just embarrassed because he's very much about optics and looking like, I mean, they all are. That's the
Heather Gay
foundation
talks
of the
about that all the
church.
time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like Heather, but one thing I appreciate her talking about is, one, how it is anti-Black, the Book of Mormon, Mormonism, everything they're taught. And I also appreciate her just sort of explaining how much perfectionism is expected, because I didn't realize that. That wasn't something that was um known to me prior.
Yeah.
But
And we're talking about Heather Gay from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, by the way.
yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. So Jen tells Zach, I'm sorry. Uh, question. In my notes, I say this, but is it the other way around? I have Jen tell Zach if she wants to go to Chippendales with the girls and watch the guys dance, she should be able to do that. She said that to him, correct? That's not something that
Yes.
okay. And then
Yes.
he nodded his head and agreed with her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is where you're going to hear me have a lot of conflicting feelings about Jesse, and a lot of the same feelings through the whole season about Demi. I am angry with how they react to Jen's relationship, because in the beginning, episode one, we hear Demi say that they feel like Zach is only apologizing because he got caught, and not because he actually feels sorry or is going to make any type of change. And that's the reality. I wish they had stuck with that. You know what I mean? Instead of falling for Zach's bit that he does later on. But this apology is very fake.
Yes.
And we hear some of the deeper issues, okay? Because Jen says them sometimes. She says she wants him to not talk over her, think of her feelings before his. These are changes that she wants to see before she's comfortable moving back in together. So for the episode one starts out, and they're keeping the Arizona house, and things aren't going well. Now, Taylor, episode one, hot out the gate. This is why you need to watch Secret Life of Mormon Wives. Let's say you're just sitting here listening because you love me. You need to go watch, because Taylor meets up with Jenna, the girl that Dakota admitted to kissing, and Macy is there as a buffer. Now, I will say, I do think Macy's a good friend for how she's always there. Is she messy? Yes, but I do appreciate her just being there for her friends.
Part of me feels like, is Macy there because she's a good friend? Is Macy there because she wants to know? Because this is
Let us
happening
know in the
in Macy's
comments.
own home. Like, she invited Jenna over to Macy's home. It
I
was
was
Macy.
wondering where
Yeah, it
they
was
were.
Macy's
Thank
house.
you.
Yeah, they were in
Okay.
Macy's house, and like, is it there to be like we're on neutral ground? But like,
Tr-
and I can't
True.
remember what the Cinder Sunday was. Was it that I slept with? It was I slept with Dakota, right? So Jenna went to Macy. It wasn't my friend. It was I slept with. Yeah, it was I slept with Dakota before Taylor. I'm afraid to tell her.
I think that was it. And,
Yeah,
if you're listening to this and you remember exactly, correct us if we're wrong, but I think that that was the situation too. Now, Jenna gives her phone over to Taylor and says, you can read through the text, which Taylor does, and finds out that, and Taylor knows her dates. Listen, she came prepared. If this was a test, she was studying,
A
okay?
plus.
A plus. She said, I know the exact dates. Where was he? August 5th. Was that the night that he was with you? And she finds out my boyfriend's about to walk in. Taylor reads through Jenna's text and finds out that Dakota spent the night with her on multiple occasions. And seemingly, Taylor was the girl he called at night, and she was the one receiving cute text from him. Now, that was shocking.
It was so sad, and it hurt my heart for Taylor, just because we know that her biological dad abandoned her when she was young. Yeah, we'll start here. So we already know that Taylor has abandonment issues from her dad, her biological father, who abandoned her when she was young. She like was able to meet him again briefly, and he said, "Hey, what's up, kid?" or something. Didn't realize it was her. I think
Oh my God,
wasn't that
yes.
yeah. And so them finding out that like the guy who she has a child with now has basically been she called them date dates. Like she would take him, or he would ask her to go to the museum, go to wherever, go to Swig maybe, and then Taylor was the nighttime call girl. And like how detrimental and so sad for a girl who already knows, who already thinks that she's not worthy, and who already knows like how abandonment feels, you know?
I was I felt so bad for her. Like,
Yeah.
she basically thought that she was his girlfriend. And then she's reading these messages, and it's feeling like she was the booty call, the nighttime text, and he's saving being kind for somebody else. And she was already having issues of self esteem, her self
Mm-hmm.
worth. So then to see him, okay, who values me? Because you know what? Her stepdad really didn't either. Her stepdad didn't as a role model in her life. I was glad later on in the season to see him do things bare minimum, like, come over and fix stuff at Taylor's house, but her stepdad didn't value her. Her real dad said, "Hey kid." And then there's Dakota, you know what I mean?
Her
And then there
brother
was,
and her mom. Her sister's the only one. God
truthfully,
bless Aspen.
oh my gosh, thank you for knowing her name, because shout out to her sister. Now, that brings me to the next thing I was going to say. We see Taylor's mom, and Taylor's mom her name's Leanne. She has wanted a nose job since after season one, but went in and got her whole face done. This was like a Heidi Montag type of work done. Like, go in for one thing and then leave with, she looks, I
Insane.
insane. Like, I truthfully don't like to make degrading comments, but she almost doesn't look like a real person anymore. It looks
Mm,
very, it's bad work. It's
yeah.
bad work. It's bad hair extensions, but she's had what feels like a huge glow up, if you will, at least in her mind, since season one. She's got her Louis Vuitton shoes on. She got her whole face did. She asks Taylor, do I look like you? And I don't care what anybody who's friends with Leanne says in my comments, I still believe that Taylor's giving her parents some of her money. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
Like, I think that I think Taylor just seems a little bit more generous than that, and I feel like she just would. So regardless of if Leanne spent her money and then has Taylor's as cushion, I don't really care. I think that her daughter's success fuels her lifestyle, and then she still has the audacity to hold it against her.
Yeah. And I definitely think that she is jealous of Taylor. The
Yes.
comment that you mentioned of her saying like, she said, "Oh, do we look the same age now?" It's like,
No.
A, no, and then B, why would you want to? It was so strange. And I feel like Leanne thinks that she should be. I mean, we see that in episode 9, 10, that she wants the fame. And
Because
even
I
if
don't
it's,
care. She didn't come to that party for Taylor's
she did not.
benefit.
No, she
No,
wanted a moment on TV. She, I definitely feel like she, if not Taylor paid for it, that she used Taylor's connections to get that plastic surgery, and said that she'd give her a shout out on my TikTok. Because I don't believe anything they say.
absolutely. And Taylor's mom is just so condescending. Like I wrote down in quotes what she said. She's in the conversation talking about Taylor, her relationship with Dakota, and she says, "Your generation just calls it quits the moment something doesn't work." And that's not how things are. As she's encouraging Taylor to try to further her relationship with Dakota, when what she really just needs is to have a stable co-parenting relationship with him. That's
Literally.
all that needs to happen.
Yeah. And it's like, well, your picker's off too because you pick some, like, why are you, like, you should not be giving advice either. Like, you guys both need to be in therapy together and individually. Thank God Taylor's going, but the mom needs to as well because the way that she moves is so off and more like Regina George's mom than an actual parent. Like, we need
I'm the
Claire
cool
Huxtable.
mom.
Yeah, we need Claire Huxtable. We don't need Mrs. George.
Now, the next scene, moving away from Taylor's family, Zach and Jen are trying ketamine with each other for the first time. And,
What a switch up.
you know, Zach, it doesn't like when Jen goes to Chippendales and sees somebody dance, but he's down to try ketamine.
Yeah.
Now, the funniest part was the quote from Jen. Zach's trying ketamine really shows the effort that he's willing to put in for our relationship. Just because I never thought I'd hear those series of words strung together as a reason why someone's trying in the relationship. But here's the thing, they literally just do ketamine. They're not there with a therapist, they're not doing ketamine therapy. Like they just take the ketamine. That's it.
Yeah. Literally. And for someone who already we know allegedly already has an addictive personality because he's a gambler, why would you ever do ketamine?
Why? Why would you ever do that? So, anyways, they do it
And like it didn't work because obviously.
and it didn't work. Okay. And I will say, at least when we saw Demi and her husband share their experience, I think that they had a mental health professional guide them through it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they ended up talking and like going through things. It was ended up just being Jen crying. And I'm like, okay. So nothing was like actually discussed. They just did a drug together.
You know what it's like? It's like Jesse Lally from the Valley going and doing ayahuasca. It's like the guys who go and do ayahuasca and act like they're healed. Like that was like Zach's willingness to actually work on himself. That's why he was willing to do that.
100%. And I need, honestly, I wouldn't be upset with Jen if she ended up acting like Michelle. Like, I need her to, like,
Me too.
step her game up and just be like, well, this guy's a scrub. I don't want to, like, he's spending all my money gambling, doing ketamine, maybe. And, like, yeah, he cut his hair. This is the still same Zach. Like, whatever.
Oh my God, yeah. He's like, new do, new me. No, it's
Oh, we
still
didn't
the
even get to
same
the
you.
Affleck of it all. We didn't even talk about the Affleck of it all. That
What
they're
epi-
wasn't that season one? Because it came off and then they took off the Affleck part.
Oh yes. Oh my God, season one, yes. They had Jen Affleck as her surname every single time they came up
Yeah.
on the show. Yes,
So
you're
for the
right.
lore of everybody, Jen was told by the family they related to Ben Affleck. There were TikTok genealogists, like to call them, who were like, Ben Affleck's parents never even left the Northwest or the Northeast. Like everyone has always been there. So, and I think it was Zach's family. They have all the generations back from like when they emigrated to the U.S. and stayed in that area. So we know there's no relation at all. But now Zach is trying to say basically, oh, we didn't know. We thought the family members had met him.
This reminds me of like when white women say that one of their grandmothers was a Native American princess. You know what I mean? Like this just
Yeah,
feels like a very similar situation.
it's crazy.
Okay,
And
go.
he's trying to say that he told Jen not to say it, which was like
No,
he has no like accountability whatsoever.
I don't buy that for 1 second. I think that he absolutely used that as a bragging right. I think his family used it as a bragging right. I think it's something that they joked about prior to ever being on television. They were like, "Oh, we're related to Ben Affleck." No, you're not.
No, you're
No, you're
not.
not. So the episode ends with Miranda's party. And Miranda throws a party at her house, in her words, to try to win back over mom talk. Now, of course, Whitney enters, and like we said in the beginning, she's clinging to Miranda because everybody else thinks of her as a pariah, basically. Like people still don't like her from season one. So she is all gung ho to see Miranda, despite everybody else just being unsure because they're not sure what's going to happen with Miranda and Taylor, all of those obstacles. Now, Jen is also someone who was open to Miranda entering the group. She says she doesn't feel the same way that Macy or the other girls do who are Team Taylor, and she wants to support women. I think that Jen was also feeling a little bit of tension with the girls at this moment versus actually wanting to support women. But if she was just supporting women, then good on her, you know? I can't
Hmm.
say one way or the other. Now, Jen is mad at her friends for not keeping their opinions on her relationship with Zach to themselves. And I don't know why she would expect them to keep their opinions private. You know what I mean? Like, I
You're on
guess
a
this,
TV show. Like they're literally
yeah,
filming it.
like he films with you. It'd be one thing if he wasn't even a part of the show and they just kept bringing it in, but he films with you. So I feel like that's pretty.
Yeah, and you're saying this stuff to them on camera. We literally have an over the shoulder like screen of like him berating you on text message while you're sobbing to your friends. Like, so don't if you don't want someone to have an opinion, don't tell them. Everything else is fair game.
Jen has a conversation with Whitney about this, about the other girls talking about Zach. And she says that she texted the girls to tell them that she wants them to keep things to herself. And that's how the episode ends, really. The episode ends with Jen telling Whitney that she texted the girls to do things with themselves. And then episode two picks back up at Miranda's party. Now, we will be coming back, me and Nikki, if you would be willing to, anytime, maybe these next few days, so that we can recap episode two for you.
I would love to.
Okay,
Because we
yay.
haven't really talked about Michaela. Michaela,
100%. And we still need
yeah,
to do, and in our next episode, we need to do some rankings because I did boldly with my chest get on TikTok and say who I thought let fame get to their head from season one. And I had both like my preseason thoughts on that and then I had my post-season thoughts on that. So in our next episode, we will go through that as well. And then we can dive through maybe episodes 2 through 5 so that we're not just doing one.
yes.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening. As a reminder, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, click that subscribe button. Give the podcast 5 stars. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts. Make sure you're following Nikki. Can you tell everyone where to follow you one more time?
IG is the Nikki Vicky, and TikTok is just Nikki Vicky.
Thank you everybody for listening. Start watching Secret Life of Mormon Wives if you haven't started yet.